No, 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 no. Oh. Okay, in front of me I have 4 pairs of headphones. I have the Sony collection, the Bowers & Wilkins PX8S2s, the Apple AirPods Max 2, and the Sennheiser HDB 630s, which I will put on the Mark Ellis Reviews headphone stand. Which one do you buy? I do love these headphone comparisons. I know you love them as well. Just one quick note, please. Never set your trousers on fire, ever. But please don't do it based on my choice of headphones. The whole thing about the Sennheisers is because I forgot them in my previous video. Genuinely forgot them. I'm human. Things happen. I forgot them. But they are in this video, so please leave me alone. In these headphone videos, I always get asked in the comments which stand I'm using to display my headphones, and, well, this time, I've made my own. And that's thanks to Elegoo and their Centauri Carbon 2 Combo 3D printer, which is this week's sponsor. Now, I've never used a 3D printer before, but thankfully this one is very easy to use, which is good news for a noob like me. You can design something yourself from scratch, or grab a model from Elegoo's Next Print library, then send it straight to the Elegoo slicer with one click, load the filament into the side, and hit print. That's it. It walks you through the whole thing, and you can also control it from the Matrix app if you're not in the room. When you get into 3D printing, you realize how addictive and genuinely useful it is. This thing does 4-color printing straight out of the box thanks to the Canva system, and it switches between them automatically mid-print, so you get proper multicolor results without swapping anything yourself. It's so straightforward. It comes preloaded with the official licensed emoji models, which are good fun, plus a load of other useful stuff. Check it out in that link below. Right, okay, so you've got a decent budget for your ANC headphones and you want the best of the best. I think these 4 give you a really good choice. In order of price, depending on where you live, obviously, but in the UK and the US, roughly, we have the Bowers & Wilkins PX8S2s. They are the most expensive in front of me. Then we have the Sony collection, the Apple AirPods Max 2, and we have the Sennheiser HDB 630, which don't have the best name out of all these, although the PX8S2s, it's similar, isn't it? It's numbers and letters. None of that matters. What matters is how they sound, what the comfort's like, what the ANC is like, the noise cancelling, the transparency, the calling quality, the mic quality. And finally, which one would I pick if I could only have one pair of expensive headphones? I have chosen one. You'll have to wait until the end of the video for that. But first, let's talk about specs. Let's not go through all of the specs because we'll be here until next Tuesday. The stuff that really stands out, firstly, battery life. The standout battery life in front of me is the Sennheisers, which have up to 60 hours with noise cancelling turned on. The least amount of battery life is the Apple AirPods Max 2. They have 20 hours. Well, the Bowers & Wilkins have 30 hours and the Sony collection have 24 hours. So it's a bit of a spread, but if battery life is really important to you, just get the Sennheisers because that's the obvious choice. They're also the cheapest ones on this table. In terms of drivers, the Sony collection have 30mm, Sennheiser have 42mm, and the Bowers & Wilkins PX8S2s have 40mm. Not sure about AirPods Max 2, I've not noted that down here, but we'll put that down here somewhere. I know driver size is important to some people, but I would say don't hang your hat on that completely. The fact that, for instance, the Sony collection have 30mm versus the 42 in the Sennheiser, I've got that right, haven't I? It doesn't necessarily matter. They all play lossless. They all have different types of codecs they use. We'll put the codecs on the screen now so you can take a screenshot. One thing to mention is the fact that Sennheiser very nicely include a dongle. So if you use, for instance, an iPhone which can't transmit the high resolution aptX adaptive codec, plug that into your phone and those connect to that and you get aptX adaptive, which is very nice. Design and comfort, let's go from left to right. So the HDB 630 are very comfortable. They're light, they sit nicely on my head. I have no hair, so that does matter in terms of how much they stick out. These stick out probably the most out of all of them, but it's quite a classic design. It's quite a satisfying design. The one thing I would say, they're a bit plasticky compared to the rest on here. Again, they are cheaper, but it's worth bearing in mind that material-wise, you're getting more for your money here. They are more expensive, I suppose, in fairness. But yeah, cushioning-wise, they're very good. They're nice. The AirPods Max 2, just like the AirPods Max 1 and the USB-C edition, are heavy. They're the heaviest out of all these headphones, and if you lean forward and lean backwards, you can tell I've never been bothered about the weight of the AirPods Max. It's not a thing for me, it just doesn't matter, but I know some people are bothered by it, so if weight is a thing, these probably aren't for you. The one thing I will say, they are beautiful. I still think out of all the headphones on this table, they are the nicest made in terms of the materials used, and just the look and feel of everything is just very, very premium. And if you're follically challenged like myself, they're the best pair of headphones in front of me because they don't stick out at all. Well, they do a bit, but they barely stick out, and they kind of clamp themselves firmly against your head without too much pressure. They're very, very comfortable, the AirPods Max 2. The Bowers & Wilkins PX8 S2s are very nice in terms of materials. We've got lots of metal here. We've got this really interesting, I think, design where the inner cable kind of runs through that arm. I do like that. In terms of comfort, they're really good. I always forget how good Bowers & Wilkins headphones feel on your head, but they're very comfortable. The ear cushions are great. There's nothing protruding out of the ear cup into your ears. They wrap around your ears very nicely. They're a lovely looking pair of earphones. When was the last time I said earphones? Headphones. Right, Sony Collection. These are an acquired taste, I think. I know when I reviewed them, a lot of people said that this kind of metal thing here looks a bit weird. Doesn't bother me. I think they look really good. They're basically an upmarket pair of Sony XM6. That's the best way of thinking about the collection. That's in terms of the build quality, the materials used, and also the audio quality, which I'll come on to later. But I think they are very premium looking, very premium feeling. Headphone cases. I'm obsessed with headphone cases, if you're new to this channel. AirPods Max, we don't get a case, really. We get this kind of slip pouch thing, which I used to have a really big problem with, but I've learned over the years that most people, well, not most, but a lot of people don't bother with headphone cases. They get rid of the case and just chuck the headphones into their bag. I think Apple has tuned into that and given us this thing where you can just put them in there like that, chuck them in your bag, and they're still being protected to a degree. I mean, there are some exposed elements here and there, but they're more protected than they would be if they were like that. And they go into a low power state when you put them in here, so that means the battery life is very good in terms of standby. The one thing I would say is that the case does get dirty. It smudges quite quickly, which is a bit annoying. The Sennheiser's my least favourite case out of all these because it's huge. It's absolutely massive, very well made, but just too big. The Sony Collection case is very unique. It's a little bit like the AirPods Max because you have this kind of handle thing here, but it completely covers the headphones, and it's very, very well made, and it has a very satisfying clasp. Love that. Bowers & Wilkins, understated, simple, not too big. It's got a zip, which I'd rather have that magnetic Sony thing, but it keeps the headphones nice and safe, and it has the incredibly satisfying internal magnetic pouch. Not sure what that was. Right, let's talk about sound. Starting with the collection, Sony says these are the best sounding pair of headphones they've ever made. I'm not sure if they mean consumer headphones, but that was what they said during the press briefing. I can't confirm that because I've not heard every pair of headphones that Sony has ever made, but these do sound utterly fantastic. You've got the XM6 here, which do sound really good on their own, and then you have the collection up here. It's that much better. The big differences are the bottom end, the bass is much more controlled and just enjoyable on the collection, and the mid-range really cuts through. And the difference between an expensive pair of headphones that really know what they're doing when it comes to audio and a slightly lesser pair of headphones which are tuned for the mass market tends to be that mid-range. If if vocals and guitars and all the stuff that sits in the middle of the spectrum cut through beautifully, you're in good hands, and that is what the collection do. The Bowers & Wilkins PX8 S2s are the best sounding pair of earbuds. Not earbuds, brilliant. Best sounding pair of headphones on this table. Simple as that. If you want to hear my full breakdown of them, go and watch that full video, that full review after this one. The AirPods Max 2 sound brilliant. They're a massive step up from the AirPods Max 1 and the AirPods Max USB-C edition, which are basically the same pair of headphones. Whatever Apple's done in terms of the new chip and the tuning and the stuff they've done with the internals in the AirPods Max 2 has worked. Again, the bass is so much better. A/B testing these against the previous generation, I couldn't believe how kind of flabby and unsatisfying the bass was on the first generation of AirPods Max. The AirPods Max 2 fixes that completely, and again, the mid-range is great, the top end's fantastic, and the soundstage is just wide and beautiful. The HDB 630s also sound brilliant. The bass response is incredible. The mid-range, again, really cuts through without being annoying. The top end's fantastic as well. And they have the most detailed EQ setup in the app out of all these headphones. They've got a parametric EQ. If you know what that means, it's quite a big deal for people who really want to tune the sound of their headphones, but you don't get that with these. In fact, we get varying levels of EQ control across the other three, with the AirPods Max 2 being the least controllable in that respect. And remember, you get that dongle with the HDB 630s as well for the aptX adaptive compatibility with things like your iPhone and your laptop and all that sort of stuff. So the winner in terms of audio, it's the Bowers & Wilkins, obviously, but the rest are really, really good. And that brings me to ANC. Noise cancelling, AirPods Max 2 beat the other three by a sizable distance. They are so much better than these. And if that is your biggest thing, if noise cancelling really, really matters to you, get the AirPods Max 2. These three can't compete. In second place, it's joint second place, is the Collection and the HDB 630. They're very good noise cancelling headphones. You won't be disappointed with them. The Collection aren't quite as good as the XM6 because I think they're focused more on the audio for these, but it's still, yeah, like I say, you won't be disappointed. In last place, we do have the PX8S2s because Bowers have been very honest about this. They focus far more on the audio quality. And remember, all of these have the drivers doing the audio and the noise cancelling, and you have to strike a balance there. And the balance that Bowers & Wilkins have always struck is kind of erring towards audio. Audio quality is the important thing for them, which means the ANC isn't quite as good. Transparency mode, when you let the outside world in and you can hear yourself speak, AirPods Max 2, it's not even a contest. It really isn't. They are just incredible. I think the closest are probably the Sony Collection. It's not bad actually on the PX8S2s, but again, if hearing yourself talk on telephone calls is really important, you need to get these, which brings me to my mic test. So I've tested all four of these separately outside. I'll let you be the judge, but there is one very clear winner.
Okay, let's start with the PX8S2s, the brand new pair. Walking down a very busy street, lots of cars coming past, wind hitting the ear cups. Quite a test for headphones like this. How are they performing? Let me know in the comments. Just very quickly, the transparency mode is, I think, on par, almost, with the AirPods Max. It's not far off, it's really good, and it's important because you can hear yourself when you're talking on telephone calls. But yeah, very impressive. As for the calling quality, let me know down below.
And this is AirPods Max 2. Now there's three settings to test here. There's automatic, standard and voice isolation. This is automatic. This is standard, which you choose by going into the control center and changing it there. And this is full-on voice isolation. The wind has really picked up now. Straight away though, guys, the transparency mode is so much better on these. It's really windy. This is a proper test for these headphones.
Walking down the street with, well, this time, no cars passing, but a little bit of wind hitting the ear cups. There is a car coming now, which is useful. In theory, these should sound identical to the XM6 because they have the same mics and most of the same hardware. So this will be an interesting test. There we go, car going past. What I didn't talk about in the studio was the transparency mode, which is when you can hear the outside world and your own voice. It's pretty good. But again, it's pretty good on the XM6 as well. This is a very good test today because it's very breezy, so that there's lots of wind coming past the ear cups, which a lot of ANC headphones do struggle with when it comes to the mic quality. So it'd be interesting to see how the HDB 630s cope with that. The transparency mode, I wish it was better. My voice is just a bit muffled and it sounds like I've got something around my ears. That is a bit of a shame. But as always, guys, let me know what you think about the mic quality in the comments. Back to me in the studio.
Right, conclusion time, and hopefully an opportunity for me to get back in with the Sennheiser Massive. The HDB 630s are the cheapest on this table, and because of that they win in terms of all-roundness and value for money. However, if you're an Apple person, you're going to get these, aren't you? You're going to get the AirPods Max 2, and also if you're a Sony person, you're going to get the Collection. If you're a Bowers & Wilkins person, you're going to get the PX8S2s. The big question is, if If I'm going to a desert island and I can only take one pair of expensive headphones, which one would it be? It's over to you now, guys. Get involved in the comments. I know you will. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you know what to do, yada, yada, yada. See you down there.